Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this morning, I am delighted to be joined by Chris McElwain, Double Denim, he is also known as. And we're here, of course, to cover the game at Tynecastle, which kicks off in 30 minutes. The teams have been announced. I was just talking to you before we came on, Chris. Obviously, I've said over the last few weeks, you look after your own backyard, you look after your own performances, but come on, you keep one eye on what's happening elsewhere, particularly when there's a game the day before our match. And last night, I had the great pleasure of sharing the evening with Celtic supporters in a place called Cowie, which is quite close to Stirling. It's only 35 minutes away from where I live. There was a big event with Roy Aitken and Pat Bonner. So you can imagine just being in a room with two guys like that is incredible. But I shared the stage with them. 1,313 appearances between the two of them. And they were just like two old pals. And of course, you open the night up mentioning the score at Ibrox yesterday, and the mood in the camp was just phenomenal. But what is it about us? We've seen, like, even in the Acsom group, people saying, "Oh, I don't want to count my chickens." Listen, enjoy it. Enjoy it when they get pumped in their own backyard.
Yeah, look, it's the momentum swing, right? We spoke, I think, we've spoken over the past couple of weeks that both teams have got the potential to drop points, right? And it's, we've done it. We've had too many draws. We've dropped points in games. I don't see Rangers being miles ahead of us, or even miles below us. Both teams are kind of on a similar trajectory at the moment. And I thought yesterday, I didn't expect Rangers to lose against Motherwell, but when it happens, you've got to, look, this is football. You've got to take the opportunity. You've got to take it and say, okay, look, this is our chance. I think the trepidation comes a little bit from the fact that our performances this season have been hit or miss. We've been very Jekyll and Hyde. Some of these terms have been thrown about. So you almost feel a little bit afraid to hope. But look, me and you are of a similar age. We've been through the 9 in a row for Rangers back in the 90s. All the tough seasons. The Tommy Burns where we were probably one of the best teams in Britain, if not just Scotland, but and couldn't win the title. So we've been through some really tough times. But I think when you get these opportunities, this builds excitement. This is what we want. And I really hope, for the sake of all the supporters, that the boys on the park go and do the business today. 3 points is a must. Let's get a few goals as well. Come on, let's really embrace this chance and take it.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. You're spot on. And listen, I'm going to enjoy it. I am going to enjoy yesterday, because although I'm superstitious, I'm not so superstitious in so far as enjoy last night and you won't get your just desserts on the Sunday. Come on, Celtic are still, you can do both. Celtic are capable of getting a result today at Tynecastle, and we can still enjoy what happened last night. As I say, sharing a stage with Roy Aitken and Pat Bonner, I am a sponge. That's all I am. I'm a sponge. I just ask them question after question after question, both on the stage and off it. And I was asking Roy Aitken, the guy, as I say, played so many games for Celtic. He's in the top 5 of all-time appearances for the club. Came through good times, bad times, played as a 16-year-old. Initially under Sean Fallon, who had stepped in for Jock Stein, rather. Jock Stein comes back from the recuperation after a car crash. He's then working under Jock Stein. He then works under Billy McNeil, Davy Hay. Billy McNeil a second time. International, he is working under Jock Stein, who was manager of Scotland, of course. Alex Ferguson. This guy knows a thing or two about football. Moved into management himself. If you look at when Martin O'Neill went to Aston Villa as a manager, who was looking after the Aston Villa team over the pre-season? Roy Aitken. The guy knows his stuff. And I just said to him, we analyse and we ponder, and as fans we observe, and we try to find answers when we're playing bad. We tried to look at the game against Dundee the other night, Chris, and say, what was different? Why were we so good? Why were we able to tear them apart, whereby a much worse team in Ross County just a few weeks ago, we struggled? He said, just the freedom. He says, Paul, football can become overcomplicated. He goes, and data's brilliant. He says, I'm not a dinosaur. I think data's phenomenal. He says, but sometimes you can give too much information to footballers. And Pat Bonner backed it up. He says, Jack Charlton was not a tactician, but look what he did. Look at the Euro performances. Look at the World Cup performances. He wasn't a tactician. But he said, Pat Bonner ran through the team, the Ireland team, and he was saying, I'm in goals. He's gone, Kevin Moran, Paul McGrath. He ran through the team. Liam Brady, up to, this was a kind of early team, up to John Aldridge, Frank Stapleton.
Aldridge,
yeah. Aye, he said, Ronnie Whelan, all these guys. He said, Paul, sometimes if you've got good footballers, trust them. Take the shackles off them. Allow them to attack. Allow them to express themselves. He said, sometimes it's as simple as that. You can analyse it to death, but sometimes you've got the players, let them play. A lot of people might look at that, well, that's simplistic. You are a dinosaur. I don't think so. I think we saw that against Dundee, Chris.
Yeah, I would agree. It was something I think Lloyd picked up on the show on Friday. Is that the frustration is that we're seeing largely the same personnel that we've seen throughout the season. Why are we suddenly seeing such a heightened performance? But the things we pointed out at that point, you look at a player like Yang. It's not necessarily taking the shackles off, but with Yang, what you've done is you've maybe clarified his role a little bit. Just say, look, stop trying to be Pele. Just do your job. Do it well. Do the basics. Get the basics right. And I thought the way he and Johnston combined in that match was excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing how that takes shape again today. I mean, I think it'll be a tougher game today. Looking at the Hearts lineup, it looks as though they might be flooding midfield. So I think it'll be a big day for Iwata and our back line. So our midfielders and defenders are going to really need to be on it today. But surely that performance on Wednesday, finding that winning formula, and that formula, it wasn't just about getting the result, but we got that result emphatically, particularly in that first half. So we've got to take that momentum, we've got to build on it, we've got to apply the same kind of the same kind of posture, the same kind of learnings, and really try and encapsulate that's just a bit more simple, bit more direct style of football. Let's not be afraid to do the simple things. One of my big frustrations this year is too many occasions we've seen our players trying to walk the ball into the box or taking too many touches around the box, trying to score the worldies. Look, that's fine if you're 4 or 5 goals up, but when you're trying to get a lead or you're defending a 1-0 lead, you've got to do the basics. So I think it's partly taking the shackles off, but I think also it's maybe removing a little bit of the pressure from the players and just saying, look, here's your role, keep it simple, do it well. Let's see where what rewards that gets us. So that's the way I would view it, and fingers crossed we can carry that momentum into today's game.
Yeah, I'm going to obviously run through the starting 11. I'm also going to get the thoughts of the commenters, as always, coming in support of Acsom. Phenomenal to meet people last night who tune in up in the kind of Stirling area, talk about, it being part of their daily routine. I love it. It's part of my daily routine, clearly. Magical Music TV. There's only one Aaron Moy. Oi, oi, oi. Why not? Why not sing about Aaron Moy today? Aaron Moy, a player who unfortunately retired at the end of the season. It seemed premature. It seemed as though he had football in him, but he's retired. He had the back problems and all sorts, but we've missed him this season. Paddy Lavery, can I just say, Paddy Lavery, big birthday for Paddy last year. This year, sorry. Hence that particular avatar with the 5-0, Paddy. You don't look a day over 40, young man. Good morning, all, and all a good morning. I hope you're enjoying the game today, Paddy. Over in Ireland, Mickey Boy 80. Let's hope by the end of the day we'll have had another performance similar to the first half. V Dundee, and we're top of the league, looking down on the Rangers. Listen, there's nothing wrong with that, right? This is what I'm saying. This is about being a football fan, enjoying when the title challengers, let's remember they're the challengers, and people started to forget that over the last few weeks in the press, get beat at home against Motherwell. Enjoy it, embrace it. It's phenomenal. Yep. Jungle Lion. Well, here's a good point. Obviously, if you've not seen the team, we're going to read it out in a wee second, but Callum McGregor is missing. He was injured against Dundee. He was taken off at half-time, which allowed Daniel Kelly to come on and perform really well in the second half. There was rumours straight after the full-time whistle that there was an injury to McGregor. And Jungle Line points out, well, the people that wanted McGregor out of the team get their wish. Let's see how it goes. There has been people all season criticising the performances of Callum McGregor. This is a fantastic point. Let's see how we do without him, because I think a lot of the time he's underappreciated, Chris.
Yeah, I think part of it is because he's set such high standards, right? Not just as a captain, but as a player over the past 5, 6, 7 years. He's been a mainstay in that team. I think he's accepted a lot of responsibility in that team, and looking at he's had a lot of success. So it's very easy to judge a player when he's successful, but when a player has maybe a downturn in form, which I think McGregor, to be fair, in periods this season he has. He looks as though he's maybe been trying to carry the team at times, and that's not an easy thing to do, even for the absolute best players. But at the same time, I don't think any player should be immune from criticism. When it's due, and I think Callum, like quite a few players who've performed consistently well over the past few seasons, that they've not rose to the same standards in periods this season. The big problem with a player like Callum McGregor is if you do take him out the team, and sometimes taking a player out the team is the right thing to do. You protect him, give him a break, give him a rest. But who do you bring in? This is when you've got a player who sets such high standards. It's not necessarily about taking him out. It's about who do you bring in to perform that role. Now, as you say, Daniel Kelly came in when we were very comfortable. Let's be clear about that. I mean, it was second half. We were well in control of the game. Performances had dropped a little bit in the second half, understandably, given the pace of the game in the first half and how we approached it. But Daniel Kelly came in and done really, really well. But would it be fair to bring Daniel Kelly in to, say, take on McGregor's role all of a sudden? I don't think so. I would have quite happily put him in. I think the boy looked great. But I think from a realistic point of view, he's not the kind of guy to go in. So Bernardo's coming in today for McGregor. Now, Bernardo's been up and down this season, a couple of cracking performances, but he's really gone off it. But he is a more established player. He's much more tenured. He's got his appearance in the Champions League as well as in the in the league. So I think it makes sense to bring him in. But I agree, it'll be interesting to see how the team performs without Callum's influence today. We're going to need leaders to step up all over the park, and I think guys like Joe Hart, Carter Vickers, they're going to be key today. I think there's a big role for Iwata today. I think he's going to have to really try and take control of that midfield. And you've proven winners like O'Reilly. O'Reilly came back to form with a bang on Wednesday. Big reliance on him today as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think everyone would probably want a fully firing Callum McGregor in their team every week. Injuries happen in football. We have to adapt. We have to deal with it, and it's up to the other players to step up in his absence.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. It's an opportunity. Brendan Rodgers talks about that all the time. The opportunity that arises through someone else's misfortune, and it's all about taking the chance. And I agree with regards to, for example, the Rio Hatate jersey. I don't think anyone claimed it as such. No. I think Bernardo, for a spell, looked as though he was going to. Then he fell away a bit, and then Iwata, we've been screaming about Iwata all season, and I understand he's had injuries, but he's came in and he's really stapled his, I think, his claim on that jersey. So let's have a look at the teams then. The starting 11 for Celtic, we've got Joe Hart in goals, Alistair Johnston at right back, and Greg Taylor at left back. The central defensive partnership is Cameron Carter-Vickers, who wears the captain's armband, and Liam Scales. In the midfield, as already mentioned, Tomoki Iwata will be playing a defensive role in the midfield, and he will be assisted by Matt O'Reilly and Paulo Bernardo. Big, massive game for the midfield today. And then up top, you've got Yang, who I thought was excellent against Dundee, showed some real intent. He deserved the jersey after his performance against Motherwell. You've got Maeda, who is just an engine, and I think you need a player like Maeda in a game like this. And then through the middle, Ida. We'll be talking about the bench as well. On Ida, Brendan Rodgers has been very keen to claim him, if you know what I'm saying. He's claimed him as a Brendan Rodgers signing, and I love that. I love it. It's only a matter of time before Celtic fans start singing "Ooh ah up Ida," as we used to do with Samara. But I think what he's been doing since he came in is phenomenal. It's written off, right? Written off as a signing. Why? I think there was frustrations around the recruitment largely, rather than the individual. But there was this narrative that he's a third choice Norwich player. He can't get a game. He doesn't score goals. But as I say, Brendan Rodgers has been very keen, very quick to come out and say no. He got a phone call from his agent and he made it happen. He's been brilliant since he came in, Chris. Absolutely brilliant. Headed goals that you would expect Kyogo to score, where he's read the move, the anticipation that Kyogo's got, where he gets an extra yard. And of course, penalty kicks. He's got the athleticism. He's got the, for me, the physique, the physicality up top. This game is built for a player like Ida.
Absolutely. And look, everything you mentioned there was factual, right? He was a third choice striker at Norwich. He didn't have a great goal scoring record on paper. But sometimes you have to give a player an opportunity to really show what they can do. And I think Ida has taken his chance, and so far has done exceptional. First couple of games, I think he was trying to find his place in the system, but he's since taken his opportunity in the last couple of games in particular, and for me he's really shown his characteristics as a striker. And at the moment, domestically, looks the part. So yeah, for me, he's come in, he's kind of cemented and solidified his place at the expense of one of my favourite players, Kyogo, at the moment. But listen, you play the guys on form. I'm a big advocate of that. I think the frustration was largely around the process, not the player. I think it's frustration around the process. When you've had evident failures in your recruitment process, it's very hard to trust the output. The continual output. So we've signed a multitude of players who've not really had the effect Ida's had. So Ida was kind of up against it as soon as he came in, and to be fair to him, he's the one that's turned the opinions around through his performances, through his goals, and I think good on him. And look, if the manager wants to claim him as a success, fair enough. I'll get no problem with that. And it's quite possible that Brendan was the man. He saw him, and maybe he saw something similar to what he saw in Moussa Dembele or Odson Edwards. that kind of back to goal, physical, powerful striker that can turn players, can hold players off. And Ida, for me, that's what he embodies. So yeah, could very well have been a signing that Brendan wanted. Maybe he was the only one in that mould that we could get. Doesn't matter. He seems to be getting a tune out of him, and that's important. So look, we've criticised and praised Brendan Rodgers in equal measure, I think, this season. I've got no problem giving him some credit where it's due. He seems to have found a formula at the moment, certainly in the last couple of games, to get wins and get a couple of goals with it. Ida is a key part of that, so, fair play.
Oh, definitely. And by the way, I think it also shows that when it comes down to some of the signings, they've not been rubber stamped by Brendan Rodgers, and that's been one of the biggest issues. It's something we'll come back to after today's game is over. There's loads of people commenting. Over 1,000 on the live stream today, but unusually not many Union Jacks popping up, and I don't know why, Chris. I do not know why.
Something happened that's maybe made them not want to come out today. I don't know.
Hiding under their duvets. On the bench, we've got Scott Bain. I'll not tell you what the thoughts were last night on the goalkeeper sitting on a bench for 15 grand a week. Lagerbielke comes back in. Interesting. We'll come back to that. Palma, Kyogo, Kuhn, Holm. I'm reading through this thinking strength. And we've got Kelly, Ralston and Welsh. Daniel Kelly, of course, a lot of people were saying he should have been thrown in instead of Bernardo. But I think, I get the sentiment behind that. I get the argument around how can you develop a young player if you're not prepared to show a wee bit of confidence in one of the toughest games we're going to face this season. I know Hearts got beat 5-0 another week, but Tynecastle for Celtic, very unusual if it's a cakewalk. If it's 3-4-5-0, doesn't happen very often at Tynecastle. Was it the right time to put Daniel Kelly in? I'm not so sure. I'm going to trust Brendan Rodgers on this one. I think Bernardo, albeit he is also young, he's got a lot of, for me, experience this season in big games, Champions League games, the derby where he absolutely excelled. So I think he's called it right, but I get the excitement around Kelly and a lot of people asking him to be in the starting 11. The one I'm interested in on that bench there is, Holm comes back and he's not been seen for a while, but he's been spoken about as a really good prospect by Brendan Rodgers, so I'm not really surprised at that one. It's Lagerbielke, Chris. And Lagerbielke, he's been the guy really that's had the focus really of the recruitment or the failed summer recruitment window, whereby he's basically been dropped from the squad. He scores that winning goal against Feyenoord. I don't care if it was a dead rubber. He scored a winning goal in a Champions League game, and then he was dropped the following week. He's not been seen since. Looked as though he was going to be moving to Lecce in Italy in January. He even did interviews with the Italian press talking about how he was looking forward to pursuing that move, and then it didn't happen because of the injury to Carter Vickers. And I spoke at the time about, I get that we need to keep this guy. We need the bodies in the building, right? Because, earlier in the season, we've seen what happened. We had to bring in an emergency in that. Phillips, very expensive emergency loan signing. Liam Scales, I don't care what anybody says, he excelled, and that's why he's in the team. There was a resurgence of Liam Scales, and that's why he's still in the team to this day. But we had to keep Lagerbielke. That wasn't the issue. The issue for me would be more of the mentality, whereby you've told a player, I don't rate you, you're going to let you on loan, hopefully it'll turn into a permanent move, or actually, back in you come. And you then have to rely potentially on a player like that. And that's my worry. Relying on someone who knows they're not really valued at the club.
It's the mentality and the motivation. Listen, it must be one of the hardest jobs as a manager to do that, particularly around transfer windows where maybe somebody has got the potential for a move. And whether it's a move that suits both the club and player or, just the player. I think the issue with Lagerbielke is he's a very clear example of a project signing. I think Lagerbielke was bought as a project. I know that's one of the words we don't like using, but I think he was. For me, Norochki was brought in as the replacement for Starfelt. Scales was a bit of a surprise package. Scales was suddenly relied upon and has actually exceeded the expectations, and then some. But for me, I never viewed Lagerbielke as any more than maybe a third or fourth choice centre back this year. It was someone that maybe come in, get a few appearances. And that we could maybe, as part of what we think is a recruitment strategy, could maybe go and up his value, get a few games, maybe cement his place, and then be sold on for bigger money. And I always thought it was telling when we were at the Johan Mjällby event. Mjällby obviously very familiar with Swedish football, very familiar with the player, and he didn't criticise the player, but what he said is not ready for Celtic at this point. Not a player that would go into the Celtic first team in his opinion. Wasn't at that level. And I don't think that's the player's fault. The player's scouted. He's offered a deal at a club like Celtic. I mean, yeah, he's going to take it. But I think by virtue of our injury problems at the start of the season, he was kind of thrown in. I don't think he didn't perform dreadfully. I mean, I'd probably have him ahead of Nat Phillips, quite frankly. But I think you never got the impression he was a player that the manager favoured, either through subtle, points in interviews or, the fact he was kind of in and out of the team quite a lot. I think there's a player there. I really do. But what I don't understand is if you're not going to use a player, even keeping him around his backup, if you're not going to use him and he's got the opportunity to go and have a move, I would have let him go. Stick a youth player in if we need to, but I would have let him go. So I've got a degree of sympathy with Lagerbielke. He's back on the bench today again, by virtue of an injury to a player in Norochki. So he's came in. Is he ahead of Welsh in the pecking order? Don't really think so. Not given what I've seen. I mean, Welsh has been pretty consistent on the bench when he's fit. But you never know. Maybe there's the opportunity for him to come in there and have again a bit of a renaissance and revive his career. It's a difficult one. I suppose maybe it's just a way of keeping our bench as strong as possible and saying, well, we cover every possibility. If we get a couple of injuries, we put him on. Or if we're defending set pieces, he's got a bit of height. Maybe that's the reason.
I'm a bit surprised we've got two centre-halves on the bench, I've got to say, because not ideal, but you've got Tomoki Awata, who can obviously fill in there as well, played a lot of football. At centre-half, I probably would have gone for Vata on the bench. That's just my take on it. What do you think? The comments are 1,000 strong. We are approaching kick-off time. It's going to be a powder keg game at Tynecastle today. Lord Flashheart will be a tough game today, and with no Cal Mack to run the midfield. You're looking at others to run the midfield. The thing with regards to some of the criticism around Matt O'Reilly, actually, in the comment section, was pointed out to me the other day that in the game against, I think, Kilmarnock, where a lot of people were criticised, no one ran as much as O'Reilly. So I think that sometimes if he is not creating a goal or scoring a goal, a lot of the other work goes unnoticed because it isn't the box office work, but he's still putting in the miles, he's putting in the work, and I think sometimes he's been a victim of what's happening around about him. And then obviously, if you're looking at the season in its entirety, he is the best player we've had all season. That doesn't change it, even if his form has dipped slightly. Hopefully it's back on the upward trajectory. Mikey boy, Chris, I'm going 4-1 with another quick start. I hope it is a quick start. I'll tell you something else, though, and I'm not hoping that this happens, of course. If Celtic were to lose the first goal, I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to panic, Chris, because I do think that we are susceptible to that. especially if we're taking the shackles off and playing a wee bit more open and the kind of free-flowing football, it might leave the back door open. There might be an opportunity. I know we've not defended set pieces that well this season. Carter Vickers is back. Massive, massive difference. Taylor's back at left back. By the way, again, missed hugely when Bernabe was on the left side of defence. Johnson's coming back into form. You know, Scales looks far more composed and assured when Carter Vickers is beside him. I think you and I would as well, playing alongside that man. But we are susceptible to that type of attack. I'm not going to panic though, Chris, if it happens today. I'm not going to panic if we go a goal down.
No, I mean, we even saw it on Wednesday, the first minute or two. We saw Dundee, get into our box and fire a couple of shots across the face. I think Joe Hart actually saved the one as well. We are notoriously slow starters in games, and actually in either half. I mean, I used to fear the first 15 minutes of a second half, because I always thought, even if we were winning at half time, we always seem to be slow to come out the traps, and it could very well be the same today. Now, looking at that Hearts formation, I mean, you can never really trust some of the apps that show you the lineup, but it looks as though they might be going 5 across the midfield, so trying to flood that midfield with potentially Forrest playing off Shankland, and that that could cause us problems if that ball gets launched high. Then we're really relying, as I say, on Iwata to try and sweep up ahead of the defence. And look, great to have Carter Vickers back. But even Carter Vickers, he's going to take him a bit of time to get some of that rustiness away. There was one point in the Dundee game where he nearly sold the farm. He tried to do I think it was a pass back, and just
used the wrong foot, didn't he? Used his right, yeah.
Foot. So, look, as much as we praise him, even our top defender has got a wee shaky moment in him. And I think we're going to have to try and navigate some of those wee issues. But look, this is a team that scored 7 goals against Dundee, coming off the back of some no brilliant form over the past month or two. I think the momentum is swung again. I think the players should be galvanised by the result yesterday. I know we really should have only look at who we are facing, but that should do your team talk for you, right? I mean, that should be your team talk. Guys, come on, this is a second chance. You don't get many of these at this level. Let's go, get a win, but get a statement win. Do our jobs properly, and give the fans the reward we deserve. So, yeah, I don't think this team will crumble if we go a goal down. I do think we're going to have to navigate a pretty hostile atmosphere. I'm hoping players like Yang, who've suffered from that at the early part of their Celtic career, I hope he can kind of navigate the hostile Tynecastle crowd. And if we get a young guy like Kelly coming on again, he might face the same thing, but he might see it as a challenge. What's he got to lose? He might come on and do the job. But yeah, I'm like you. I'm quietly confident. I mean, I made my prediction yesterday, 5-1. I'm not going to change it.
Nice.
I'm going to stick with it. I'm going full optimism, channeling my inner Jerry Taylor. I'm going 5-1.
Oh, I like that. I do. Just for anyone who's not seen the Hearts lineup, let's have a look at it. We've got Clark, Sibbick, Kingsley, Rolls, Lembe, Casilla. Hopefully got that right. New Hoff. Wow. Beningame, Grant, Cochrane, Shankland, and Forrest.
Good effort.
I was asked, I don't think I got them all right. I was asked last week around who in the Hearts team are rated, and the 2 players that I actually mentioned was Shankland, which I think is obvious, and Cochrane. I like the look of Cochrane. I think he's a good player. He's got good kind of fibre, good calibre when he came to Hearts, and I think he's performed really well every time I've seen him against Celtic as well. So we will be, of course, focusing on the Celtic lineup. Franny Weldon, the vegan Viking. Love it. Kyogo to come on and be the day's winner. I'd like that. I would, because I mean, a lot of the focus is on this man, Ida. The Kurgan loves Ida. Let's not forget the talent on that bench with the likes of Kyogo. Jungle Lion, watched the amount of empty seats scattered down today. Pathetic. Absolutely getting a lot of messages this morning for guys who cannot get a ticket for this game. Any industry in the world, right, where people are banging down your door to buy tickets and you're saying, no thanks, I don't want your custom. Honestly, Scottish football. Mikey boy, hail, hail both and all Acsomers. This is the day we take back control and show everyone why we are champions. Let's do this, Celtic. I don't see that as triumphalism. I see it as confidence. You need that. This is what I'm talking about yesterday. Nothing wrong with enjoying yesterday and still going into today's game either quietly confident or with trepidation, whatever your feelings may be this morning. Nothing wrong with that at all, Chris.
No, absolutely not. Like I always feel this way in match days, and might feel differently at half time. You never know, but I think, you know, you've got to, you know, this is a team that's, you know, made up largely of players who won a treble. We've had dips in form. We've had negativity around stuff going on in the back room, stuff, you know, in the park. But see, when it comes to match days, you've got to get behind your team. So I think Mikey's 100% right there. You know, it's you put your frustrations to one side, you back the guys in the park, and you say, okay, come on, let's do this. We are capable of doing this. Let's get the win. And look, you know, not being funny, but Hearts are one of the teams I just love beating. I'm sorry, maybe it's a Glaswegian thing, but I love beating Hearts. So yeah, I would like to see us go, have a really good performance, get control of the game, get a few goals, and you know what? We pass the pressure onto Rangers on the other side and say, right, you know, you guys slipped up, back to us. Now you're doing chasing again.
Let's see how you react to that. Let's go to kickoff. We are buzzing here. It's quite clear, Chris and I, and we'll be back at halftime. So come and join us. Thank you all, 1,000 strong plus on this Sunday morning. Enjoy the first half. Come back and speak to us at halftime. All that's left for me to say, Chris McElwain, thank you for joining me on a Celtic State of Mind.
Pleasure, Paul. Hey,